What up, though? As we say from my home state of Michigan, I want to welcome everybody back to my podcast, Live from the Kitchen Podcast. I am your host, Corey, or better known as Inspiretheblock on Instagram and also on Twitter. So why don't you just, look your boy up, follow your boy so you can keep up with the movements and know what's going on with me, know what's going on in my day-to-day life, certain projects that I'm working on. And just go ahead and also subscribe, like, and comment to this podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and all other platforms where you can find podcasts. I want to welcome everybody back once again. I know I've been missing in action. However, I just been really rebranding, retooling the podcast. A couple times I had individuals that I thought was going to work out to be co-hosts, but that didn't work out. But it's all fine. Salute to those guys. I wish them nothing but the best. I wish them nothing but bright futures. The difference is I just got to do what I got to do for me. And like I said, I'm rebranding it. I'm retooling it. I'm coming up with different ideas, strategizing so that I can give you guys great content, something that you can sit back, listen to, and enjoy, and really get something from it. Because my podcast really is designed to inspire. It's really designed to motivate and to just share with you information that may get you through some times, or just to get you over the hump. Some people just need a little push, need a little good positive energy in their life to make it over the hump. And, I'm bringing segments, I'm bringing different things, just like I say, for your pleasure, for your enjoyment, and for you to get something out of it. And in this first segment, which is, kind of funny to me, something that I just did to be creative and bring something different to the podcast. But in this segment, before I get to the heart of what I want to talk about, it's called They Trippin'. And what I normally do is find something on social media and just to point out something like, they tripping. Something that people in this world doing for whatever reason, but we all can identify that they tripping. And this first one that I'm about to introduce today on this podcast, it comes from the Shade Room. I don't know if none of you guys, that listen to this follow the Shade Room on Instagram or Twitter or whatever other, social media site they're on. But I would advise you to follow them because they keep you up on a lot of information, a lot of up-to-date news on what's going on around the country. But this, I saw it was disgusting. I'm just going to be honest with you. It was horrible to watch. It was terrible. And it was sad at the same time because why would people do something like this? And I saw this video of these small little children from the ages of 18 months to 3 years old. And their parents were recording, giving them, letting them hit some weed. I mean, it was sad. And the thing that was sad about it was the fact that, y'all gonna videotape it? Y'all gonna put it on social media? Well, let me give you the report from the Shade Room. It says, 2 women in Winston-Salem, North Carolina were arrested on child abuse charges on Tuesday after a viral video on social media showed them giving 3 young children an illegal substance to smoke. Authorities learned about the incident after the video had been viewed millions of times. According to My Fox 8, a news release from the Winston-Salem police revealed that, I think you pronounce her name, Michaela Pearson and Candace Little are each charged with felony child abuse and 3 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. They are both being held on $150,000 secure bonds. The 3 children in the video were 2 years old, 3 years old, and 18 months. I mean, how stupid can you be, man? I mean, how stupid can you be? Or how to give some children, some small children, some weed to smoke or whatever was in it? How stupid can you be? And I'm one of those individuals, I usually feel sorry for people that become incarcerated or find themselves in legal trouble. But in this incident right here, I have no remorse. I have no shame. I don't feel anything but what they deserve to get from this incident. Not only did you give your children illegal substance to smoke, your very small children, an illegal substance to smoke, but yet you had to be that stupid to put it on social media. I mean, it blows my mind, because I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I couldn't fathom the thought of me giving my daughter something to smoke. I don't use drugs, no way. But I couldn't fathom my 3-year-old daughter smoking some weed. I mean, smoking anything. And, I know that my wife won't do it. But if I was to find out that my wife would ever do something like that, or a cousin or whoever, man, we would have an issue. We would have a real issue. And trust me, it wouldn't be pretty. It'd be far outside of a conversation. Yeah, so in this segment, I just posed the question though, are they tripping? Or am I tripping? Which I highly doubt that I am, but I really believe that they tripping. So that's that on this week's they tripping, story from social media. And now what I would like to do is just get into the heart of what I want to talk about. And right now in our society, man, we living through, I wouldn't necessarily say hard financial times, but right now the decency and respect for one another in our country is at an all-time low. I mean, I'll be 41 years old next month, and the morale is the lowest I've ever seen it in my lifetime. Of course, I didn't live through Jim Crow and stuff like that, but right now, just to be nasty, just to be vicious, just to be inhumane is the norm. It's okay, because so many prominent individuals have set the example that they can act a certain way, and then what it does is trickle down to the people, because this is who they look up to. These are their idols. These are the people that they aspire to either be like or just have so much adoration for that they can't do anything wrong. And so what I was doing, I was on the internet, and I try to read a lot of feel-good stories, a lot of feel-good news. And I came across one that I wanted to share. Excuse me. That I wanted to share. In this story, it's very tragic. However, what was produced out of this tragedy is something that we don't see today. And it's a remarkable story of forgiveness. Something that, I still, struggle with today to forgive. It isn't that hard. It's based on the level of, I would say, offense that someone has done to me will determine how quickly I am to forgive them. But I think a lot of people can relate to this because we're not too quick to forgive. We'd rather just hold on to the ugliness and the hatred in our heart instead of letting it go by forgiving someone. And this story is dealing with a family called the Beale family. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And it happened over 25 years ago, by the way. Their daughter had went to South Africa, on a Fulbright scholarship to work in the anti-apartheid movement during the explosive months before Mandela became president. And she went there, to register voters and to do a lot of charitable work during that time, during apartheid. And she worked along the anti-apartheid side. And what happened at that time, while she was there, and she was white, by the way, while she was in South Africa, she was brutally murdered by some Africans there who felt like she was a white settler, and they stoned her and they stabbed her. She died a brutal death. And what happened in this is that her mother and father, they were inspired after she passed. They were inspired by her diary. After they read her diary, they became inspired. And what they did is that they moved, or just went over there. I don't know if they moved, but I know they went to South Africa. And they began to continue a lot of the work that their daughter had started over there. And her father was a businessman. He had a lot of money. And what they wanted to do is to honor their daughter's death. So they began to open up welding, sewing, and print shops, bakeries, construction companies, sport facilities, and adult literacy programs. Because they believed in the work that their daughter was doing. So they wanted to continue that legacy of their daughter. And the crazy part about this, they end up forgiving and working alongside the men who had killed their daughter after they had got out of prison. A part of the story says their reconciliation process began when they talked with Bishop Desmond Tutu, who was setting up the country's Trust and Reconciliation Commission, and would win the Nobel Peace Prize for it. So they went through Bishop Desmond Tutu, and they began to work alongside the killers of their daughter. That takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of strength. That takes a lot of faith to forgive the people who had murdered your loved one. Even though they recognized that there was a lot going on in the country at the time, but still, that you have to be a remarkable person, and then to not only forgive them, but to work with them and reshaping South Africa and trying to produce good in South Africa. Man, that's deep. That's deep. I don't even know if I have that in me. Like I just mentioned earlier, that I have a 3-year-old daughter, and God forbid anything would happen to her. And I don't want to be tested or tried it on either. That's why I'm not going to just say I don't know how I would act. But at the same time, I know for a fact that it would be hard for me to forgive if something happened to my daughter by the hands of another individual. But at the same time, we need to start trying to adapt these principles, because we live in a very divisive time. We live in a very troubling time where nastiness, hatred, anger, the devil's playground is very visible now, based on the attitudes of the people. And I'm not, putting it out there for us to forgive people that have tragically affected us in some kind of way, but some of the small things that people have hurt us by, we can forgive. And we need to forgive, because at the end of the day, that kind of energy, you're not growing if you don't learn to forgive. Especially some of the small stuff. I'm pretty sure that some of the listeners to this podcast have certain differences with loved ones or friends that they have allowed to go on too long. And at the same time, if you just learn how to forgive, you can move past that and go back to that beautiful relationship that you once had. Forgiveness is one of the most beautiful things that you can display when it comes to when someone hurts you. Forgiveness is a great attribute to have. So therefore, let's start working on that. Let's start being more of an example of forgiveness. Like I said, I'm not asking you to go to the extreme as Peter and Linda Beale, but however, let's start with some of the small things, that we can forgive others for, that we may feel like they have caused us some kind of wrong or harm. And I think that if we start doing that collectively, if we start doing that, in droves, then we will shape and shift the attitude in the current climate of the country today. Like, I love being, here in America. I love being an American citizen. I wouldn't want to live nowhere else. I'm just not to nowhere else. But I just love being an American citizen. I love being in this country. And I just want to see it better. As many flaws as it has, it can be better. And I know a lot of people recognize that, but however, they refuse to act upon it, or act as if everything is, okay, or it's not great. As if, the country was in some form or fashion better at one point in time, than it is now. And I can't see no other time. So let's just, make that the order of the day. Forgiveness. Let's make that, prominent in our day-to-day thinking. Let's make forgiveness a tool that we've worked on so much, it just comes so natural to us. I ain't saying be a fool now, but we can learn to forgive. And that's just something that I wanted to, get off my heart today, because when I saw that story, I thought it was a very beautiful story. And once again, I reiterate, I don't know if I'm that strong to do something like that, and I don't want to be tested on it either. However, I just think that it's remarkable that you do have some people in the world that can forgive the men and work along with them, even though they caused the demise of their loved one. Very remarkable story, very inspirational, and I hope that you guys can take something from that, especially when it comes to forgiveness. Now, in this segment, it's my segment in which I'm going to start closing with some kind of quote or affirmation out the day, just to put that positive energy in the air. And this quote is by a great writer that I admire so much, James A. Baldwin. And James Baldwin said, "There is never time in the future in which we will work out our salvation. The challenge is in the moment. The time is always now." I think that that's such a beautiful quote. And the reason why I wanted to share that one is because, we have most of us have an outlook on the future, and we think that it's going to be very bright. But the only way that it's going to be very bright is based on what we're doing now. Now is the moment. This is the challenge, the time to, for you to walk into your future. A lot of people say you can't predict the future. I believe that you can. I really do. You can put it out there, and then you can do whatever is necessary to catch up with it. And so when you make it there, you always say, I always planned this. This is how I wanted my life to be, even though it was in the future. So that is my affirmation or my quote of the day by James Baldwin. Listen, until next week, I just want to tell y'all that I'm back. I'm going to be more consistent in bringing you guys more content, more inspirational, motivational content based off of inspirational stories that I see in the news, because nowadays the news is just crazy, man. I mean, it's just, especially the 24-hour news cycles, it's crazy. It's not even worth looking at. But there are different sites that you can go to get some kind of positive or inspirational news. Even your local news nowadays is all tragic. Man was killed on this side of town. Bank robbery happened on this side of the town. I mean, man. It's time to get past all that. That shouldn't be the order of the day. Tragedy. Even though I know controversy sells, but come on now. It's time to do something different. It's time to give us different kind of information. And that's what I'm going to do with this podcast. I'm going to give you inspirational stories, good news as they call it, that you can apply to your life and really be motivated, inspired by it. So once again, it's your boy, your host, Corey, a.k.a. Inspiretheblock. Wake up, y'all. Let's do this. Let's get motivated. Let's make it happen. And until next week, love y'all. Holla at your boy.